Okay.
Yeah. All right. I already pressed. I pressed buttons, so it's recording now. So whatever you guys want to do. Well, that's recording. I don't know if this isn't recording. Let's do that. All right. Cool. All right. Perfect. Okay. Well, hey, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. So in the spirit of every dreams to reality is someone's first dream to reality. My name is Jonathan Shirley, and we're at the Lead Center for our Dreams to Reality Conversations with an Entrepreneur series that we do every Tuesday at noon, and then it's also live streamed so you can catch it later. If you can't be here in person, then you don't get to get any of the giveaways that we have. So sorry. Looks like Ethan gets all of them. Anyway, so we're fortunate enough to be here with Ezra Angelle, who started Motier Lafayette, and we're just going to see where it goes. So Ezra, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's been really cool to get to talk to you a couple different times. First, thank you for randomly taking my phone call sometime in the fall whenever I was like, you don't know who I am, but give me 5 minutes. I didn't sell you anything, which was really nice of me. But then we got to talk for like 20 minutes about what you're doing and how it started and all those things. So I kind of want to chat about that. I mean,
Okay.
You said that like you had the idea of the brand when you in like 2014. So like,
Correct.
where were you at that time, and why clothing?
Okay. So around that time, I was really interested in brands that I looked up to, right? And I always dressed a little bit different than all my friends growing up.
Better, just like better in general, just like significantly
I
better.
can thank my mom for that for sure. But no, I think it also has to deal with like my background too, right? Racing dirt bikes, growing up into kind of just action sports and stuff like that. And so I was really into all these brands that I looked up to at the time. It was Supreme, Stussy, Vans, right? And I really wanted to do my own thing,
Mm-hmm.
but I knew if I was going to start something that I needed to have a really good name, right? The name is everything.
Yeah.
And the main thing about the name was I wanted it to stand for something. That way, if I did start it in Lafayette, people would be able to kind of buy into it more. So this is 2014. I'm in college at UL in marketing. And so yeah, I looked it up, and sure enough, like I looked up Marquis de Lafayette, and his name's probably about this long, honestly. But every time I looked at it for years, right, Motier always just stood out to me.
Okay.
And it was different. And I kept on researching and looking it up, and I wouldn't see anything, nobody using it or anything. So I knew that was the name then. And I just had an interest in clothing, right?
Yeah.
And just kind of dressing different and things like that.
Yeah. So you don't know this, but I do now. So I was talking to your mom a second ago, who's here, and she's wonderful. I'm glad she's here now. But so she was saying that she worked at Talking Tees, and so I didn't realize that you spent like half your life in that store. Like,
Yes.
so like that was your after school care, right?
Yep.
So I mean, like, what was that?
So when I wasn't
you were in the business for a long time, working legally or not working at all, whatever you were doing there. I don't want to put anybody's business out there.
Yeah. No. So going to school in Lafayette, right? I'm actually from Cecilia, Louisiana,
Yep.
about 25 minutes away. And when I wasn't practicing sports or anything, I was going to my mom's work after school, and it was Talking T-shirts. I have to give a shout out to Mr. Ronnie Matuk as well for taking care of me a lot and just giving me a great starting point with my life. And so yeah, I was just over there every day. Sometimes I would help him out, but it was more than anything, it was just, I think, being around it. Yeah. And just knowing how things got made, whether it was embroidery or whether it was heat pressing like logos and numbers on, or screen printing, right? I was just around it, and I knew the process of how to get things made without even really knowing that I knew that.
Yeah, you're just kind of taking all that in.
Yeah.
And then you turned it into this thing. Meanwhile, I'm getting picked up from my dad, and we're going to a crawfish pond. So not kind of the same scenario.
And I honestly, I didn't think that's what I would end up doing either when I was younger, right?
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see it come full circle.
Yeah. So 2014-ish, you like hey, this name Motier is standing out over and over again.
Yes.
But you didn't start doing anything with it until when?
2018.
Okay.
So I had graduated about 7-8 months before I decided to pursue this, and I was reading the marketing book. I think it's by Daniel Green.
Okay.
I think it's Building a Brand or a Story Brand.
Okay.
Building a Story Brand.
That's right.
And I was actually on ski trip. I had been thinking about it more and more, and just reading the book, and I had Motier on my mind. I finally sold myself like, hey, this is actually a really good idea, and I think I need to see where this goes.
Yeah.
And
what was going on between 2014 and 2018? Like, was it like, would you get close? Like, I think I'm gonna, and then like, maybe not, or like, was it just stayed as a what if?
Exactly. I think during that time it stayed as a what if throughout that whole time. It was kind of, maybe I had mocked up 2 designs on the t-shirt.
Yeah.
But that was it.
Yeah.
It was nothing more than just an idea that I would sometimes dabble in, but other than that, no. I thought I was going to end up going, work in the dirt bike racing industry after college or all field.
Yeah.
I really didn't give it much thought.
Yeah. And so many times that's what we do. Like, we create this idea, and what's great about creating the idea and it living in our heads is that it never fails. Like,
right.
At no point when you're imagining it does it fail. It's always like, oh, it would be big if I ever tried. And so we tell people all the time, listen, if you want your idea to never fail, it's really easy. Just don't do it. Like, don't do it, and it will always be great.
Yeah.
You'll never actually see the dividends or like go anywhere with it, or but all right, so 2018, you're like, we're going to do something. So what did you do?
So then I woke up, I remember it was like yesterday, it was January 19th actually, and I was actually going to coach soccer, and that's when I was full on like, I'm going for it, I'm doing this.
Okay.
And then from there I created, my first design, and we made 40 hoodies.
Okay.
Right, it was the original 2-stripe design, and within one day, when I finally got them all, I sold all 40 hoodies through just my Snapchat story and my Instagram story. I didn't make a post or anything; it was my personal, but all 40 hoodies were gone within like a day.
That's awesome.
And I was like, wow, okay, this really could be something, you know, and just to see not only my friends but just outside support too from other guys that I didn't really know all that well.
Yeah.
Right, they were like, "Yeah, I'll take a hoodie."
Yeah,
so it was really cool, and just also my group of friends at the time were really supportive of the idea as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's always whenever we sell to that person who doesn't know us that you're like, "Oh, like maybe this is something."
Yeah,
like, it's not all these people who like kind of have to buy something that I put out, like, but it's your mom didn't buy 39 of them, and like
exactly. I don't even think she didn't even get a original.
She didn't even get one. Oh, come on. All right, well, maybe one day.
Yeah.
You'll still sell it to her, though, obviously. Like,
yes.
we gotta pay things.
And like you're saying, the outside support, right?
Yeah.
There's a guy by the name of Tanner Mott.
Okay.
And he's been a longtime supporter since like day one. And so he was actually one of the first outsider guys that bought one.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, him and I are very, very close. So it's cool to have a relationship like that, from when I started till now.
It's the other interesting thing that we see with entrepreneurs who start something. The adage is that a client becomes a friend before a friend becomes a client. And so a lot of times you'll see this in restaurants where like, I'm opening up a restaurant. What do you say? You say, "Oh, I'd love to. I'm going to be there every day," and then I never see you at the restaurant. But then there's some person who comes often. You start to build that relationship, and you start to get to know one another. And it's different. Because they sort of believed in you,
correct,
at an early time whenever you were really unsure what this was going to be. So you get hoodies, you sell hoodies. Then what?
Okay, and then it was kind of like
we get 40 more hoodies. Or?
Yeah, so we ended up making another order, and I was fortunate enough to actually be a manager at Nighttown. Okay, and you had Festival International coming up, and I had a pop up. On the Saturday of Festival International, but it was inside of Nighttown. Very interesting, but it did extremely well.
Yeah.
So that was a success, and then from there, it was kind of like, okay, I have this brand. It's kind of doing well. It has a little bit of traction here. so where do I really go from here? I didn't really
Now what?
exactly, and I was fortunate enough that I got a call, I think, a couple months later from my aunt and a lady by the name of Miss Kim Ronquillo, and they had a monogram store that they were moving into off of College Saloon called the Monogram Cottage, and I was actually able to rent a little area inside the store, just a little piece of the wall.
Nice.
And I opened that up, I think, in July 18th, 2018.
Yeah.
And I did it.
I really like how you're like, oh, roughly this exact day. I thought about it on this day, January 19th. Like maybe not. Yeah.
And it wasn't ideal of how I exactly wanted to start out.
Yeah.
But it was the perfect starting and learning point for me.
Absolutely.
To where we could be open. I could, learn how to interact with customers all the time, make products, and just actually be inside of a store and like work in that dynamic.
Yeah.
Building the customer relationship as well.
Where it wasn't yours.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And it was like you got to remember it's a monogram cottage, right? So the vibe wasn't all the way there. But we did what we had to do.
I would imagine when the door opened and someone walked in, both of you knew exactly who that person came to see. Like there wasn't like the person who were coming for the Motier hoodie was not coming for a monogrammed situation.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Like there was or maybe they had a grandson or something. But there was it was pretty well defined once they walked in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Most definitely.
Okay.
But that during that period, it allowed me to learn and kind of get better at my craft.
Yeah.
Right. As an entrepreneur, I feel like you're always learning and trying to make something that's better and something new, right? So during that time, I feel like it was probably one of the most important stages of my career so far with Motier, because I was able to be there every single day. Every product that we put out, I did everything for it.
Yeah.
So it was really good in that sense, and then I did that for about a year and a half.
Yeah. Where you're doing everything.
Everything.
Like you're doing the ordering and you're making the shirts and you're doing absolutely. And so many of our entrepreneurs, they are the receptionist, they are taking the order, they are filling the order, they're thanking you afterwards, they're running up your bill, they're like, it's all you. Got a fun conversation where this guy Charles Edwards, who when his healthcare company was starting out, he's gets him a phone that has like multiple lines, and so he's answering the phone and then pretending to put people on hold. So because he's everybody, right? Like he is the company, and same thing. Like there was no customer service department. Like
I was the one.
You were the customer service department over and over again. That the pouring yourself into it part of it. I loved. So whenever I came to visit the other day, one thing that really struck me was you were so excited to show me all of this fabric. Like it wasn't just like it was like, look at this shirt. It wasn't that. It was like, feel this and look how it stretches. And now look at it's that total immersion into what you were going to sell and what you were going to create. I don't know, where did that come from? I mean, was that part of the decision of I'm going all in, and this is what it looks like?
Yes. Yeah. I think in 2019, that's when I had another job at the time. When I stepped away from that, and I was like, okay, we're gonna go with this full time, and we're either gonna make it or we're not, right? And that was, part of the decision there was, okay, if we're gonna go for it like this and go all in, well, we're gonna consistently try to strive to create a better product.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I'm so consumed now with the fabric, is because I'm always trying to create something that's a little bit better.
Yeah.
Right. And taking those steps up the ladder of really trying to perfect my craft.
Yeah. It's such a key part of every entrepreneur that we end up meeting or talking about, is this sort of constant need or desire to improve. We refer to it as a healthy dissatisfaction.
Yeah.
Like everything can be better. Everything can be, which is super annoying for anyone who's a friend of ours, because you're never satisfied. Like nothing is ever good enough. Nothing is ever, and not from a not good enough standpoint, but from a could be better. It's good. you know, like every meal that I ever have, even at restaurants, my wife's like, "How was your food?" And I was like, "It was good."
Good.
It could be remarkable, and I'd be like, "It was good." Right? Because like, what if it was this, and what if it was that, what if you know? All right, so you're obsessive about it, which I absolutely love. Um, when did you get a feel for like maybe I'm onto something? Like, was it the first run of hoodies? Was it something else? Like when it was like, hey, like this could be something, something.
Yeah. So, you know, I knew with the 40 hoodies, right, it could be something. And then I had the opportunity to, like I said, to move into the Monogram Cottage, did that for about a year and a half. But then I had the idea to do another pop-up at Festival the following year. And I actually found a place that was for lease behind Tsunami,
Yeah.
right? And that was my first time being able to provide a store atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
And it was actually a huge space, and I was able to go in there and host the event all weekend long and truly put on the vibe that I wanted the store to be like, the atmosphere, and what it felt like to actually shop at Motier.
Yeah.
And to me, that weekend right there is what really like not only sold myself to it on it because I already knew I really wanted to do this, but it really just proved to me that I was capable of being able to, you know, have a full store and, you know, I have this idea, but it can really go somewheres.
Yeah.
And it was that weekend.
Whenever someone walks in, whether it was someone walked into that pop-up or walk into your store now or walks into future pop-ups, what do you want them to feel? Like tell me like what's the thought process of like why is stuff maybe where it is for you? Like what do you want this person to experience when they walk in? Because I'm not just coming to get a hoodie or a shirt. Like,
correct.
If I was doing that, I could go anywhere else.
No, you're completely right. When I want people to walk into the store, I just want them to feel like they're comfortable there, like their family, right? But also give them something different and unique than just like another store around, you know, anywheres.
Yeah.
Right? Because Motier is unique and special because, you know, it's locally made, right?
Yeah.
And I just think it's special that you can come in, you can have a great conversation with, you know, an entrepreneur or anything, and just enjoy somebody that's taking a risk like this.
Yeah.
Right? And just actually see the atmosphere that they're trying to provide and give Lafayette something different.
Yeah.
Right? Because I've been to LA, I've been to New York, and I've visited all these stores that I looked up to.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to bring a little bit of flavor of that here.
Yeah. So what's that like whenever you're, because again, having walked into the store and hearing you, like you are trying to give something that's not here, you know, and so what are some parts that you're trying to bring, or like what is it about Motier that you're trying to bring that you feel like is different than what's here? I like that part.
Really
and I think
good
that's
question.
interesting. Like, especially as you talk about like there are stores that you go to in all these other places, and you're like, I think that would work in Lafayette, versus maybe sometimes it's just not going to work in Lafayette.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's a really good question. But I'm just trying to, like I said, I'm trying to give something different, but I'm also trying to, you know, provide clothes that are like a tad bit different, or it's like everyday items, right? But it's a little bit better than just your everyday item.
Yeah.
You know, but it's also cost effective.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Good quality. And, you know, I'm just trying to really just, you know, build a sense of community around that too.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And just you know, let people know that they can come into the store and feel like family and, you know, be a part of Motier.
Yeah. That was the other thing that was fun, that fortunately like 2 or 3 customers came in while I was there, and just see that interaction of, you know, wanting to make sure that you were talking to them. And so, hey, it was always like, hey, let me go talk to them. Like, because I can entertain myself. I don't need anything. But like, so that you were able to spend that time with customers as, you know, a young woman who's shopping for her boyfriend, to know exactly, hey, I think I know who that is. I think he would like this or like that. And what about this? And, you know, that it was concern. Now, one, you were also going to make that sale, because like, we're going to make that sale. But it wasn't just a sale for the sake of a sale. It was because like, hey, that's someone that you want to come back 4 or 5 times.
Correct.
Not just, oh, I got to get this one sale. Yeah, I like that.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I'll say after doing it for a little while and actually having the whole store and having employees now, right?
Sure.
I'm actually not able to, be there for every single person that comes into the store, and I really do miss that aspect, right?
Yeah.
Being able to help everybody that walks in.
Yeah.
But I definitely try my best to, go and work the front as much as I can.
Yeah.
I know that's why I try to work as many Saturdays as I can too, because I enjoy, like, Saturdays are a day for me to kind of work the front and just enjoy being at the store again.
Yeah.
And that's, I think my fiance kind of gets upset that I'm always sometimes working on a Saturday, but I work those Saturdays because I enjoy that customer interaction so much. I try to go on and work those Saturdays.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like, we can have a separate conversation with your fiance. But the life of an entrepreneur doesn't, like, it's not 8 to 5. It's all the time. I mean, it's at home and it's on the weekends, and so for you, balancing that with this family that you're going to grow, and how do you approach that, and where do you try to strike a balance of, hey, maybe I don't need to respond to that right now?
That's something that I'm still currently trying to learn. Okay, that's for sure. And I think it's just that's something that you're going to continue. That's going to evolve, and you're going to continue to learn and figure out how to balance everything.
Yeah.
And I think a little bit of that has to do with learning how to delegate properly.
Yeah.
And
because I mean, once you started hiring employees, what was it like to say you help that person who's walking in?
It was kind of tough.
Maybe you just had to leave.
But it's just fun to like kind of watch them like when they first start and to where a lot of the employees are now, and to see the improvements that they've made. Interacting with the customers and just it's always fun to watch the growth of them for sure.
Yeah.
And but it was just more like you kind of show them the ropes and kind of they need to really know the product as well, and that way they can sell it that much better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've had some really great successes. Was there something that either it didn't go the way you thought it was going to? I mean, failure is such a part of entrepreneurship. I mean, like, for every person who buys 40 hoodies and sells them, there's someone who buys 40 hoodies and doesn't sell any of them. But even when they didn't sell any, they learned color was wrong, graphic was wrong, this was wrong. So their next run is way better. So for you, were there some bumps where you're like, hey, this didn't go the way I planned, but here's what's going to come out of that, because some good stuff can.
Yeah. I think that's something that's always going to happen, especially in this industry. You're trying to make something and it kind of didn't come out quite like you wanted it to. And, for instance, I know there was a few shirt designs when I was first starting out that maybe didn't sell like I thought. I was like, oh man, I know for sure one of the designs was, it was called the Building Blocks tee. Thought it was a great concept. But it wasn't a good seller at all.
Yeah.
And what you learn from that is, okay, maybe it wasn't the best idea, right? Maybe there was too many colors. Maybe, so you take that and you try to learn from it to make something better. I know last year it was like the women's sweatpants. They were great. I'm not saying it's a bad product, but maybe the fit wasn't quite right, or something small, right, that you can improve on to make it better, and then you come back and you try to make not only a better product, but something that's going to fit properly and something that the customer is going to appreciate a little bit more.
Yeah. But again, that's that constant dissatisfaction, right? I mean, like, was it a great product? Sure, it was a great product, but it can be even greater. Maybe we kind of tweak this and tweak that. Yeah, I like that. So you're in the embroidery place. It's 2019. Then 2020 happened.
Correct.
So how was that?
We were actually doing great to start out 2020. I think COVID happened in like March was when
mid-March,
things
yeah,
shut down,
mid-March, yeah.
and I was kind of really upset because I was going to be doing festival again that year with a pop
Yep.
up, and we had an even better spot, and then COVID happened, and luckily enough, I had all of my spring items kind of already pretty much made, not completely made, but they were either printed or embroidered, or there were some things that I could do to continue working on them. So during COVID, I actually brought uh, the heat press. I was staying at my aunt's house during the time. I brought the heat press, brought all of my items there, right, and I was making everything in there, and we ended up launching a spring collection, and it was one of the coolest, I think, pictures we've ever put on our website to launch a collection. It was actually a guy. The model was like in a swimming pool, like all decked out in the new clothes, right?
Uh-huh.
And he had his shoes on and everything, and he's just floating in a float in a swimming pool, right? Because he wants to go and interact with everybody, but he can't.
Yeah.
But he's still wearing his new items
exactly.
that he got.
Yeah.
It was I really liked that shoot, and so once we launched that, it did really well. I was very surprised, and I think that led me to kind of have confidence that no matter what would happen, that we would be okay and that we could keep going.
Yeah. I mean, if you can do well in a pandemic, like, hopefully that's the only one,
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, there's some confidence, and I think there's an amount of the companies that hey, this happened, and I'm not going to let this go down. Like, we hear entrepreneurs who, an entrepreneur who, like, she did really well when she initially launched on Amazon, but she forgot to turn off she just forgot to put whatever it was, and now all of a sudden she looked up and was like, oh God, I got to make 40 items real quick, but I'm not going down like this. Like, I'm like, success isn't going to be the reason why I fail. And so similar, I think the people who had to ride that COVID wave and be innovative and find something different, and whether it's the way you do a photo shoot or the way you do a launch, those people are going to, if anything, you have the confidence that I can make it through that. And so the next thing that will happen, because something's going to happen, you at least have more and more evidence that you can figure it out.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that's what also led me. So I think after that was March, we launched that collection around April, right? And then we came out with some like tie-dyes, like crew necks. It was really popular on the women's side of things, which I also got to give credit to my fiance for helping me out with that.
Absolutely.
And my aunt. We were tie-dyeing them all like in hand, in person, and everything. But we just kept on having momentum.
Yeah.
Right. And that's when I got a call from Miss Kim saying that she, hey, like, I don't want to have the whole store anymore.
So when is that?
This is June.
Okay.
June of 2020.
Okay.
And then that's when I was like, perfect, I'll take it.
Yeah.
So I guess
middle of a pandemic, why not?
Why
move
not?
into a store.
Yeah. So then I started on, okay, so how do I want the store to look? And I'm kind of drawing all these certain things up of like the whole rack on the wall, the way that it's built, what it's going to look like. And I remember right before we started, we ended up closing down in July and remodeled the entire inside of the store for a whole month. But I remember right before they started, I remember asking my aunt, like, am I kind of crazy for kind of taking over this whole store while a pandemic is going on? And do you think people are going to still shop like in store? And, I was just nervous because that was when we were, some things were opening and then we got shut down, and it was opening and then it would shut down. So I think I got really nervous when that was kind of going on, but, I just stuck with it, and I was like, no, we're going for it. Like, this is what I've been working for.
Sure.
And so, yeah, we closed down the whole month of July, and then we opened, I think, August 11th of 2020.
Okay.
And then, like I said, when we met the other day, that's when everything changed.
Okay.
For sure.
So at that point, you have your store. It feels the way you want it to feel, and now you just needed people to come in.
Yeah.
And so, what was that like? I mean, as far as, because that was one thing that you mentioned, is that, like, you guys don't have this giant marketing budget thing. Like, you post some things and you do some photos, but it's not like,
Yeah.
Not that there are any billboards left in Lafayette, but like it's not like you're going, you're not.
Yeah, no, it was just, I think it was word of mouth. And I think if you have a good product, you have a good brand, people are going to, not only support you, but they're going to want to go and check it out. They're going to want to go and, check out the store and see what it's all about. And that's just what I kind of, focused on. And throughout that process, I just focused on, just trying to make good products throughout this time and making sure we had enough items that when after a week of being open, we were starting to sell out.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we got to have things coming in, right?
Yeah.
So, that's really what I was focusing on during that time. As far as the marketing goes, we were posting a few things on Instagram, right? And we were just, trying to ride the wave of like, hey, like we just opened, like
people are excited.
Yeah,
so,
people y'all just keep coming in, and that was a really fun opening month.
Yeah, I would bet. I mean, Lafayette does a good job of supporting local people,
most definitely,
especially in the first 3 months, and then someone else opens, and that's the issue. Like, if no one else opened, this would be easy, but then we got to go to that person, then we got to go to that person, and so like finding those, it's great to have a good first 3 months.
Yes,
but not if you don't have a good next 300 months.
Yeah,
so whenever you look at, I don't know, I guess it gets back to just how you kind of treat people who are walking in. I mean, like, I'm trying to make you a customer for life, right? Like, I'm not trying to make you a customer for 10 minutes. No. I need you to be, because you may need something, but then 20 people, and you got to get gifts for somebody, and somebody needs something, and so.
Well, to kind of build off of that, right? During that time, we were selling. Our number one selling product is like men's active shorts. During that time when we had just opened, and for the first 6 months or so, maybe even longer than that, I'm not sure, we were actually putting all of the drawstrings inside of the shorts, like ourselves, because we wanted them to be a little bit more unique and like a little bit different. And throughout those first 6 months of actually having the whole store is really when I feel like I started to find my stride of finding the right manufacturers and getting in touch with, those companies that I work with, right? And I was always looking, even from when I first started until that point in time, that was what, 2.5 years, almost 3 years of like always trying to find these manufacturers that I work with now.
Yeah.
And then finally I kind of hit a break.
Yeah.
And then I started working with one, and lucky enough that we haven't had to change another manufacturer, because we have a great relationship, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's just having the store and having the contacts that I was able to finally get. I think it just kept on like building on top of each other, and we just kept on going from there.
I guess that in finding those contacts, there's the element of continuing to just prove yourself, in this industry, right? I mean, like, listen, you started, it was 7 months after graduation, and now I'm going to go and build me a clothing brand empire. Are there times where, or what do you tell yourself? What do you do, whenever it's like, hey, I'm about to go to this trade show, I'm about to go to this thing, and have you been successful? Yes, you have, but there are also some people who've been successful for a lot longer.
Yes.
We're about to be all in the same room, and you deserve to be there just as much as the next person. So what's that conversation like in your head?
Yeah, it's really interesting for sure. When I do go to these trade shows, yes, I will go and look at other brand stuff just to kind of just see what they're putting out, right? And I'll talk to some guys, and usually like how we get started on it too is like they'll comment about, hey, I like your shirt, or something small like that, and we just get to talking, and I'll ask a little bit about what they do. They ask about what I do and about my story and stuff like, but go and talk to these manufacturers at like trade shows or anything. It's very interesting, right? Because some of them are foreigners, or some of them are in the U.S. So there's a very interesting dynamic to it all.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to have confidence when you go to these things.
Yeah.
I know when I was first starting out, right, maybe I was a little lower on confidence, especially going to these events,
Yeah.
right? Because you're going to talk to these big people, and sometimes they don't really want to, talk to you, or you might not mean anything.
Yeah.
And a great example of that was the story I told you.
I know, I love that.
So this is out in Los Angeles.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, so I'm out in Los Angeles. This is kind of when I first started out, I think around, this is 2019 or so. And I took a break from like the little trade show part, and I was looking up, it was Los Angeles, no, the LA men's fashion market or week. I'm not sure, but either way, it was in this big building, right? And I'm starting to look. I'm like, man, how do I really, make something from scratch?
Yeah.
And I'm just wandering around this big building. I'm not really having any luck, but I end up walking into a textile company, their little showroom, and the lady's like was kind of like a little rude and a little thrown off of why I was walking in there. Like, what do you need?
Yeah.
And I just kind of thought, I was like, look, lady, I flew all the way. I flew all the way out.
Southern charm. Yeah. Look, lady, this is what's up.
I flew all the way out here from Louisiana, right? I don't really know maybe what I'm doing as far as like
you're off to a great spot at that point.
Yeah, and I was like, but look, I'm here and I'm trying to learn.
Yeah. Please
just like help me. And so I ended up winning her over. And she was like more than nice. Her name's Miss Ann Davis. I'll never forget her. And she just explained to me how the process kind of works as far as like making an item, right? You find the fabric that you like, right? And then you find a manufacturer, and you send the fabric to the manufacturer, and she pointed me in the right direction to kind of understand the process of making an item.
Yeah.
And that was, I'll never forget that experience right there.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ann. I mean, that's what I've loved the more I've gotten to know you, and I mean, I constantly refer to it as this just obsession with quality. Like, just how can I make it better? How can I make it feel better? How can I make it, how can I make it from nothing? Like, I'm not buying pre-made shirts and putting my logo on it or my brand on it. Like, I'm having this created just for me. Like, this is mine, and I don't know. That's something that, if people don't know that about Motier, I feel like it's
something
everything.
They need to know.
I feel like it's everything.
Yeah.
It's so much more than, hey, like, this is a cool logo or this is a cool, design. Nothing is, you don't do any drop shipping. Everything is mailed out from the store. Everything is filled by someone who works for you. It's triple bagged, so it's all, there are sirens that go off when you open it and all kinds of things. But like, because there's a bunch of pride, in that,
without a doubt,
in that item.
Yeah.
In that item.
Not only that, but one of the things I stress over too is like every online order that we get, we print it out, and there's got to be like a comment on there, like handwritten note saying thank you, or great choice, just something. But yeah, that's one thing. I would
have got a different size. I don't know, like whatever.
Yeah, like just something to show like that we care and we appreciate that order, right? That I just wanted to add to that.
No, I mean, absolutely. I mean, so like there's there's this positive to negative ratio that's basically comes from, this is a giant sidetrack, so we're all just going to buckle in. All right, so there's this couple that does a lot of research on couples up in the Northwest, and so they run this relationship lab where basically they can watch a couple for never mind. They can watch you for 15 minutes and know whether or not you're going to make it, basically, as a couple.
Okay.
And it revolves around this idea of a 5-to-1 positive to negative ratio of interactions. If you can get 5 positive, if your ratio is 5-to-1, 5 positive to 1 negative in a 15-minute span, your chances of making it skyrocket.
Yeah.
And that's great to know from a relationship standpoint, not only from a partner, but also as a customer. Hey, how do I design an experience where the customer is consistently being impressed over and over again? Like, hey, my item arrived. First of all, I'm excited. Like, my item arrived and the packaging looks good. One more thing. There's a handwritten note on it. one more thing. Like, I can quickly get to build up 3, 4, 5 positives so that if something is messed up, that doesn't matter. I've already won you over. I've already done so much work on the front end that I've bought myself a little bit of leeway on, you catch us on a bad day. We don't have the size you wanted. We don't have the, I mean, the brands that do such a good job with that are the ones that I'll buy from them every day. Every day, and that they're always my go-to to return purchase, because how can I not? Like, you've already shown me so much that I'm willing to give you a little leeway.
Most definitely. And we want to, one thing is, like, if we do kind of mess up an order, or say something they ordered wasn't in stock, we try to make it right and, like, throw a pair of socks in there, or a lanyard, or just anything that just shows, like, hey, we care, and, like, we do apologize about it, and that's one thing that all the employees definitely know to do, and communicate that. And we'll even call them and talk to them on the phone and try to give them other options as well, like, hey, we're out of this shirt in this size, but we do have these 2 shirts, and that's something similar. And just trying to stay involved with the customer, right, and just make sure that we have a great relationship going forward.
So, I mean, something that you want to get bigger. What's the thought on how do you keep that? Like, how do you, like, you want to grow, but not at the expense of that,
That's a great question.
If you have 2 stores, you can't be in 2 stores. You're one person, so, like, there's that to think
about. So that goes back to, like, what I had kind of mentioned earlier is kind of delegating, right, and making sure that I have the pieces to the puzzle, right, in the right order and in the places that they need to be. And I think before we decide to open up another store, right, I need to make sure all of those pieces are aligned correctly. And also, we got to have a certain amount of items, right, that I call the staples. So it's called the staples, and it's a certain amount of items that we should always constantly have in production and constantly have inside of the store at all times. I think that number is at 30. And we're around, like, 22 to 23 of those. We're really close. Right. But to open up another store, now you're gonna have to double your orders, because that stock's gonna be for that store. You got to have stock at the store back in Lafayette. And, like, I think in the past year to 2 years, we've had that question you're just asking me a lot more common. And
well, I mean, even whenever you dreamed about the brand in 2014, I don't know if it was a 1-store brand or if it was a big dream, like a real dream, like, not just
it was a big time dream for sure.
I'm still. So it's a big time dream.
I'm a dreamer.
Then what we want to do is not just, again, like, it's awesome to open a store, and that is giantly successful, but it's also awesome if you want to be, hey, listen, like, we want to be in all these different places, and that's our expectation. And like, like, the people that we talk to, when we talk to the guys who started KOK, whenever they were throwing wings out the back of their house, they were still operating and thinking as where there's a CEO, there's a marketing person, there's someone in operations, and they were always operating that thing as if they had multiple locations. And now they have multiple locations, and they're not done, so it's, you may have 1 store, but if you run it like you have a lot of stores, then you'll have more stores.
Exactly. KOK is a great company as well, and we actually made a T-shirt together. Awesome. I don't know if you actually knew that or not, but I just wanted to throw that little bit of information out there. It was really cool. I think we're doing a great job right now, and we want to grow, but we want to grow at the right speed. And I think I don't want to be a company that just all of a sudden just skyrockets, right? And I want to be a company that just is ever improving, right? Kind of like slowly and surely, maybe not too slow, but but just constantly improving and making the strides that we need to. And I would say though, aside of growing and trying to be in multiple places, is, well, do I go the wholesale route? Or do I continue being my own brand where I just sell my own stuff, right? And if you go the wholesale route, we're going to be sold inside of other stores, right? So that's
you don't
something.
know how they're handling your stuff. They don't know how their interactions
Or
with
they could be on
customers are.
sale.
Yeah,
Correct. So that's something that you always have to consider, and maybe at some point in time, maybe we will consider that. But I still believe in what I'm trying to do. That I believe that we can be a really big clothing brand from the South.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like there are some good brands from the South, but I believe Motier really can be that one brand from the South that can continue to rise.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Say that. Say it. Chest
Oh no,
out, man.
yeah,
like,
no, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's cool because we appeal to so many different markets within Motier, whether it's like outdoors or activewear, women's.
Yeah. You have kids clothing now too.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the hottest items at the store right now is the youth stuff.
Yeah.
I know we're going to be making youth golf polos this spring, which we're excited about, and that's a whole market that we're going to continue to explore and expand.
Yeah. Do you have like your favorite item that you ever made?
These pants, I have one right now.
I'm not surprised. You were talking about those pants like to 12 people the other day. And
yeah.
I was like, man, I really love these pants.
And see, that's what's also cool about going to those trade shows, right? You see kind of where the styles and the trends are, and you come back home, and we're probably about a year to like
that was really kind of you.
Yeah,
I feel like you're
a year or to a year and a half way behind in their styles.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
gives you lots of lead time to design.
It does.
No one's going to find out about this for a long time, so we're good.
But I still think like kind of creating these cargos was like a really big step in as far as putting ourselves out there and creating an item from scratch that's going to be okay. It's kind of a different idea.
Yeah.
But they've been more than successful. They've done well, and there was just a lot of work that went into these, and there's small little things that make them great, and there's also a jacket that matches it, and I just really like them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
These are my favorite pair of pants I've ever worn in my life.
Okay.
But this color's exclusively for me right now.
That's good. Well, there's some stuff that should be yours.
Yeah.
I like that. All right, so at this point, if there are people who have questions, we'd like to go ahead and say, hey, if you have any questions, this is your chance to ask. If not, then I'll come up with some more stuff to talk about.
You mentioned building community for your customers. At what point did you start to branch out from clothing items to the accessories?
So the stickers have always been from day one. I think I had stickers probably at the same time that I had the hoodies. The socks came within my first year. I knew you had to get socks, and I was lucky enough that the manufacturer I found was really good. Is good, and we've constantly been working with them from the beginning. And then you want to keep expanding the accessories line as much as you can, right? We've made slides before, right? And now we're selling book sacks, dop kits, right? A men's like travel bag, and I know today we're actually tackling that on our agenda. And you said something about community. Is that correct?
I think all those things add to the community, right?
Most definitely.
It's the guys that are putting the Motier sticker on the back of their truck. It's the ones
with the flag.
Their ID on, and from a PR marketing standpoint, that's phenomenal. That's grassroots. They're coming in. They're doing that work for you from that part on. Right?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
But I like that sense of community, and I like the homegrown aspect of it. But watching that homegrown grow outside,
it's special.
I happen to know a fun fact, and I wanted to bring it up because I thought it was interesting.
Okay.
Which country artist had your hat on at a concert in the last year?
Yeah, Thomas Rhett. Yep.
I thought that was an awesome story, and really
most definitely. And
Yeah, so you told me to me, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Like,
So
it was random. It wasn't.
no, it was completely random. And so Thomas Rhett came into town to play at the Cajun Dome, and during his concert, out of nowhere, he kind of just saw this guy wearing a good-looking hat, and he's like, "Hey, man, I like your hat," and he's saying, "Would you mind if we traded hats?" And so he's starting to take off his hat. He's like, "Can we trade hats?" And so the guy from the crowd comes up, and they end up trading hats.
Yeah.
And so when
the guy from the crowd's like, "Thanks, I have this filthy hat now."
Yeah.
It's
So
really gross.
when he goes to put the hat on, it ends up being a Motier hat, and immediately I think I got like 30 calls, 30 texts, which was really cool and unique because it showed that it was a good looking hat.
Yeah.
And it just so happened to be mine.
Yeah.
And then from there, we actually were able to give Thomas Rhett and his wife a bunch of Motier items.
Yeah. Good little follow.
Yeah.
That's so unique and not something that just happens.
No, I agree. Most definitely.
Absolutely. Other questions?
Yeah. I know my first like big investment into it was at least like 200 something items.
When was that? Because your first, so you did 40.
We did 40. Yeah.
Was the
So
first,
the first order ever was like 40 hoodies, just hoodies. And then after that, once I saw how well those 40 hoodies kind of sold, then we kind of went and ordered a lot more from there.
Yeah.
To where now, like in the men's active shorts, now we're making like 3,000 at a time. Probably like 2 to 3 times a year, maybe. Right? So, it's risk, right? Each time you try to make a new item or go out and come up with a new design, whether it's a t-shirt, whether it's a hoodie, whether it's shorts, whether it's pants, each time you're going to be taking a risk, but you've got to believe in it when you're doing it. Because if you yourself doesn't believe in it, how are you going to be able to sell it, right? So that's the one thing that I'll say is like each time we go to make a new item, I've got to be completely sold on the item myself. So I'll take the sample, and in July we had some samples for some stuff that we were coming out with in December, and it's like a pair of sweatpants and like a crew neck, and I'm out at our storage unit wearing the full-on sweats, the crew neck on, working,
sweating through everything.
Yeah, because how hot it was, test, yeah. Right? But it was to prove to myself that this item, was good, correct, and I didn't care how much I was. I was like, I came back to the store and I'm like, yes, I love this item. Like we are going all in, So you just got to believe in it. Is the one thing I'll say. You're very welcome.
So whenever you started, did you have did you make it yourself, like your own product? Like was it?
No, I did not. I created all the designs, right? But then I did all of the finishing parts where I was pressing on the patches. I was, sealing certain things, and I was like doing all the finishing touches, right? But I knew how to get started, going back to my mom and working on Talking T-shirts. I knew how to get certain items, right? Through like wholesalers and whatnot. So that's kind of how I was able to start and go from there. Yeah. And like that was an ever constant thing, I would say, throughout those first 2 to 3 years, right? Was getting to a point to where, yes, we have like our t-shirts and hoodies and crew necks that we sell, to have them like very unique and a high quality and, uniquely ours, right? That took me probably the longest time, and that was an ever search, and I was obsessed with that, honestly. To now, like, we're creating like all of these different t-shirts, and we get them dyed to specific like Pantone color, right? And we order them in bulk. We get them, once we get them, it's in pallets, and they're all made in the U.S., which I'm very proud about. So,
Who designs it? Are you like?
as far
Do
as
you
like
design
designs,
everything?
and
Yeah, like so designs like on shirts or designs on hoodies. Like, are you designing everything?
so
Are other people at this point now coming up with ideas?
yes. So I would definitely say it's not just me.
Yeah.
Myself, my employees, right? We always like come together and we throw things around and ideas for whether it's an idea for a collection that we're going to come out with, or it's an idea for just a t-shirt design, or if it's like or just a logo,
Yeah.
right? Or items.
Yeah.
We're always like constantly like working together and throwing things together, but I do design some of the logos myself, and I've also gotten help from other people as well, because you have to.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the hardest things for me sometimes is consistently having to come up with new ideas.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's nice to get a little bit of help or just see something else, right?
Yeah.
And then, but I do have the final say so of like what's gonna get made or
because at the end of the day, it's you. Yeah. I'm trying to put something together. Any other questions? Yeah.
If you were to open another store, where would you go and why?
That's a great question. I've thought a lot about Baton Rouge, right? For sure. And the reason being for that one would be we had a great NIL deal that we had with an LSU football player a while back. We also, I would say Baton Rouge is probably one of the top 3 cities that we ship the most to. But in the past year or so, I've kind of maybe thought about maybe not Baton Rouge, kind of like branching out a little bit further. So I would definitely say New Orleans is in there. Maybe not so much like the city of New Orleans, but like more like Metairie or somewhere else around there. And I am very interested in around Dallas, and I would also say the Woodlands in Texas.
Nice. There's something about, I remember reading about getting outside, especially outside of your state and even outside of your country. I mean, basically, brands and companies that go international, even if it's just like, hey, I sold some stuff to a store in Mexico or something. You now look at yourself as an international company, and so even expanding to another state, like you're no longer a one state company, and there's something psychological about that. It's like, hey, listen, like we're a national brand now. We can't just say that we're a one state or a one city or a one whatever. And so it's almost that like growing so that you feel bigger than you are, and then you grow into where you are. Like you take a fish from one tank, you put it in a bigger tank, and then it grows, because it can at that point.
Yeah, no, I'm speaking of that, we actually had got an email just randomly saying like, hey, I'm from Singapore and I want to order this item. So me and Ethan Mouton, who is the store manager, him and I figured out a way that we could get, they were able to go from Singapore on our website and be able to buy it and do everything correctly. And we were able to ship them the whole thing. And we emailed them back. And we were like, man, is this guy going to actually order it? Because we did all this for him. And sure enough, a week later, got the order from Singapore and we shipped it all. And I think we ended up like giving him some free stuff too.
Yeah, absolutely. At
just point, because it was awesome. You'll
have to go visit him.
So that and we shipped to Canada as well a few times.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. All right, it is 1:01, so just here we are. Listen, thank you so much. I mean, like this is a great story. Really fun to to get a chance to talk to. I mean, all of our entrepreneurs. I mean, there's a level of courage and guts that it takes to just say, hey, listen, like I'm going to do this, and I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm going to do it anyway.
And I'm going to go for it.
And then I'm going to get excited about it, and then I'm going to start to obsess over it, and then I think there are so many people who their idea just stays in that what if stage. And again, like we said, like it's great when it's in that what if stage because there's no danger, But as soon as you throw it out there, there's the danger that it gets attacked, but there's also the environment that allows it to grow. and all of a sudden it's like, hey, this is, I didn't even think that we would be at this place, and
Yeah.
and now here we are. So
Yeah,
thanks,
and,
man.
I think anybody that wants to be an entrepreneur and start their own thing, it just all starts with belief in yourself.
Yeah.
And, being open to constantly to keep creating, right? Because once you start, you got to keep creating, right? As an entrepreneur, whether you're creating a brand or whether you're creating for another company or anything, you just got to continue to push yourself, right? And continue to, try to make something that's going to make you happy, and just keep on pushing the envelope, and just strive to make something better.
Yeah. Be
So,
obsessed. Be
yep,
obsessed.
that's also it too. Yeah.
Be
So
absolutely
thank you again
obsessed.
for inviting me. I truly enjoyed it.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you everyone for watching, or for listening later, or for showing up for sure. And and let's see, next Tuesday we're actually not going to be here, but then after that we'll be back on. So hopefully we'll see everyone again soon. All right, thanks
All
again,
right.
man. This
Thank
is great.
you.
This is great. This is
You
great. This is
too.
great. Yeah, thanks. People clapping elsewhere. This is fantastic. All right, that's great.
Awesome.
All right.
Y'all asked 2 questions, so look,